Welcome to the Curious Entrepreneurs podcast. You're here with me, Alex, and I'm here with my co-host, Sam, our Ignition coach. And this is our first episode. So those of you that seen the trailer, you know what this is about. You know why we're doing what we're looking to do with Curious Entrepreneurs platform and our Ignite program. But now we get started. Now we start to have the conversations. So Sam, reintroduce yourself to the audience.
So yeah, hi everyone, my name's Sam Squire. I am the Ignition coach at Inspire to Ignite CIC. So my role in this is basically helping and supporting young people on a daily basis who currently aren't in education, training or employment on our Ignite program, which works with young people aged 16 to 24 for 6 months. Alex heads the entrepreneurship side of things, teaching them the fundamentals of entrepreneurship, and then I head the human aspect of things, looking after them to make sure they can become the best human they can be.
Nice, nice. This has come up a lot, and it is what makes us unique, actually. It is that focus on the 60% human, 40% entrepreneurial skills, because we're already finding that in the conversations we're having now. You need to have the mindset required to go and be an entrepreneur. Like, it's a really different world. Everything you've thought you knew is basically irrelevant. You know, no one's going to tell you what to do.
Yeah.
No one's going to, kick you out of bed in the morning. No one. If you don't get any results, you're not going to get shouted at. The only impact is on you, and you've got to have the right mindset. Just to reiterate why that is such an important thing for us, that human development side of things. So yeah, thanks for all the work you're doing, man.
No worries, thanks for having me on board.
So,
well, to start off the podcast itself then, we're doing a lot of research at the moment regarding young people that aren't in education, employment, training, obviously just try and find a solution for the problem that's happening at the moment, especially in the UK. So, what is that looking like in your world?
Yeah, so where we are right now is we know through our own personal experiences that the solution what we're proposing and putting out there in the world is working and will work for those individuals. I suppose where we're at with the research is understanding what is the landscape of the issue, what is the total economic damage that's being done beyond just the individual. So where does it all tie in? And what we're finding actually is that we're about 700,000, around about 700,000 16 to 24-year-olds that are currently not in education, employment or training.
It's nuts.
700,000. Yeah. So bearing in mind, most young people have to stay in education to 18, that's quite alarming. The actual economic impact, i.e. the cost to actually support those people, because they're going to need provision, they're going to need some kind of social credit, or they're getting some kind of funding. The cost to the economy and the cost to the taxpayers is something around 51 billion a year.
That's nuts.
Billion. I mean, just seeing that number, I'm like, right, okay, this is absolutely crazy. What else is quite interesting is to see that there's so much support out there, and it's one of the things. So there's a wonderful person who I'd love to get on the podcast. Actually, I was having a chat with her earlier, Hilary Berg. She's a phenomenal thought leader and change maker in the world. She's brilliant. I met her through Anthropy, and we've become good friends. We're allies in change. She said to me, she's worked in this space for decades. She said, there's so much going on. There's no short of people like us that want to make a difference, that want to support, that are supporting in their way. The biggest issue amongst it all is the systemic change required to actually make things happen. The only way that we can do that is through collaboration. So, if we were to go into this world and say, right, curious entrepreneurs, inspired to ignite, Sam, myself, our team, our people in our network, we're going to go and take on this thing on our own. We would just become disheartened, hit barrier after barrier, and we wouldn't get anywhere. So I think what I'm taking from the research so far is I think it's really important that we look at who are those allies, who are the people that are, where there's social mobility, who can we collaborate with on? Where there's funding requirements for young people to get them even just laptops or access to space or access to a creative space like this, who else are we collaborating with? So, yeah, I'm finding from the research, one, massive alarming data that's rising, and I don't see any true solution to it. And I promised myself this: if we found a solution that wasn't us, I would quit everything we're doing and go and work for it. It doesn't exist. And it isn't like we want to do it because we want to do that and we want to be the ones that made it happen. We're doing this because no one's doing what we're doing. And I think that's kind of what I'm finding in all our research.
It's a lot to unpack. So I guess strapping it back then, going right to the cause.
Yeah.
What do you think is the systemic problem?
I'm always happy to be proven wrong. I'm always in this world of discovery. I think it's really important that we can have these discussions. I think it's a great way. I'm glad we're starting the series with this. So I think there's a couple of issues, and everything comes back down to education. You know, you can't talk about education without talking about the economy. You can't talk about the economy without talking about education. Every single issue we have in the world usually comes down to a lack of education in some way. You know, whether it's an appreciation for someone else's opinion, not understanding that religion, or whatever it is, it comes down to education. So I'm a believer that, like the legend Sir Ken Robinson said 14 years ago, the traditional way of educating young people within our country is not embracing creativity as a fundamental skill that is required in life. And it needs to be up there with literacy and maths, because literacy and maths does not enable young people. As simple as that. They're, drama, music, arts, all of the creative skills, the creative subjects are the things that create the moments and spark imagination and are inclusive, and there's no memory test at the end to get through it. So I think there's challenges around that, and I don't think that's unusual to say that. And actually, if you're a head teacher or you're someone working in education that hears that, you're like, yeah, I probably was at the Sir Ken Robinson thing and I clapped too. But whether they have the control to be able to change it and the budgets, I don't think so. Secondary to that, so that's very much a curriculum issue, a national curriculum issue, which I don't believe is what we need at all. This goes back down to business as well. So with my business hat on, local people know what their issues are. Local people know what their history is. Local people know what the opportunities are in the economy in that local area. Yeah. Local is the answer to everything, as far as I'm concerned. Give an autonomy and enable communities to support themselves, and they will do well. They will be fine. They need guidance, they need support, they need networks, and that's what things like Anthropy are great for. I can go and speak to other people in different towns and cities doing different things, and we learn from each other and we embrace how we do things. So I want to let local people talk about and teach local things. Secondary is I just fundamentally think the academy model was wrong. It doesn't work. It doesn't make sense to me. It's very corporate way of thinking. There's a trust here that may have millions and millions of pounds that then has to be distributed across. I speak to head teachers all the time, and they say we don't even have control of our budget. We get given provision, and then even then it's not enough, and we don't have any creative control over it. We've got no equity in the decisions that are being made, which is a big problem. So then the teachers don't get brought into it.
Yeah, no one believes.
No one believes, and that's what it comes back down to. Why are we doing it? And I think the key question that needs to be asked on a daily basis, as we do influence, and we will be getting involved in these conversations, and I don't doubt that us doing this, and as we progress over the next couple of years, that we can be a beacon for collaboration and trying to change these things. We have to ask the question, who are we doing it for? Are we educating young people to serve the economy and the system which is how it was designed, or are we educating young people how to become better learners? That's why we love entrepreneurship, right? You have to become a great learner, a risk taker, someone who asks curious questions. Those are the skills that will help young people in life. Those, ironically, are the skills that the system of the future is going to need. We don't need this. Please, sir, can I go to the toilet? We need to embrace those that are fidgety bums and want to move around. We've got. I think whenever I think of fidgety bums, I think of Jamala. We'll have to get Jamala on at some point. I've never been to a meeting or an event where Jamala hasn't got up within 5 minutes and started walking around, because that's just how she is. We embrace her for that. But in the school, no, and all of that side of things. So I don't think I've given an answer there. But what I do think is that the strategy needs to be led by questions. The number one question for me is, who is it for, and who does the education system serve? And then secondary to that, we need to let young people tell us, because it's them that are going through it. And too many of these conversations are not including people your age and younger in the actual production of the solutions. You feel overwhelmed by that?
Well, yeah, definitely, because we could talk for days, months. This is our mission. Like, this is why we're doing what we're doing. We know that it's not going to be a yearly thing. It's like, it could be a lifetime thing.
It's an infinite problem.
If we can move the needle closer for then someone to pick up. I was listening to a podcast the other day about, actually, rather than trying to aim for something in your lifetime to complete, aim for something so big that someone else almost takes the baton.
And I think that's key. And if you replay, and I really implore people, and I'll put a link to it in the description for this podcast, our inspiration. I sat the whole team down watching this, and every investor that's investing in us, I having to watch this video, Sir Ken Robinson, the TED Talk, and he said at the end, us focusing all our energy on this solution isn't for us. We are not going to benefit from this. You will. I will a little bit. I'm a little bit older, but my son will. And my other son will. My next son, who's 18 years apart. So I'll see. Flynn's just come out of the education system at 18 now. I've got a direct benchmark now. I've got 2 benchmarks. I'm going to have a lot. Because I started so young, right? I've got an unfair advantage here. So I could be a great-great-great-great-grandfather. Please don't start. Luckily, he's got to 18, which is 4 years later than I started as a father. But actually, no, I do have a direct comparison. I can compare now, as someone who would have been neat, that wasn't invented as a phrase back then, when I was 14, there was no support. There was nowhere I could go. There was no intervention. There was no one that says, Alex, come on, you're all right. Let me introduce you to someone else who's been through this. Young fathers programs like Romsey Mill Run now, which are amazing. They've got all of these organisations and support around it and safeguarding. It's great. So actually, have we moved the needle between now and 18 years ago? I would say yes, but and that's disappointing, because what we need is we need a big leap forward to enable us to do something special beyond that. So, yeah, I'm glad I want us to feel a bit overwhelmed by it sometimes, because it is overwhelming. But what I will say, the answers are out there, and it's just how well equipped are we to ask the right questions of the right people to make the change we need to.
Yeah, I'd almost challenge on that and say the answers are in us to then explore out there and collaborate out there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think that from the statistics you've shown, there was a study done in 2021 where 728,000 young people aged 16 to 24 are not in education, training or employment. I think sometimes we can get caught up in emotive case studies, which are definitely are really beneficial to get the ball moving with things, but also statistics don't lie either, and that in itself is you almost takes your breath away. That you don't even realise, even on a local level, to put that into perspective, even if you broke it down into each area in the UK,
it's probably about 10, 11,000 around this area we live in.
It's a joke. Like, and I could not believe that statistic when I saw it. Obviously, with the impact of the pandemic as well, when you were speaking about the arts, think about the. I know because obviously I'm still almost like Gen Z. I'm still 22. Like, I know people that are in that industry and in that field that their livelihood in the last 2-3 years has just been wiped because they pulled all the funding from those type of things.
Yep.
So in that, where are we now? Like, what I think we're only just seeing the impact of what the pandemic will have on our lives.
Yeah.
Which again,
you're gonna feel it next.
Yeah, like for me, I see it as a challenge.
Yeah.
It's scary, but I see it as a challenge to do, and I know that we are going to move the needle because I can feel
it's moving, man.
Yeah, the momentum.
You can see it shaking while we're pushing some pressure on it. I think that now interesting around the art stuff. So back of Brexit, this comes back to actually not so much the pandemic. The pandemic made us realise it, but actually Brexit was a big part of that because a lot of funding was coming from European social funds into this country and it funded all sorts of great things. There is new funding coming in. Unsurprisingly, I believe that sector needs to think more entrepreneurial. They need to start looking at new technologies like Web3 that will enable artists and creators into this new creator economy. You're seeing it. Influencers, creators, they're getting paid directly now. The middle barriers are coming out. You know, horrific stats. You look at music. You know, record labels have taken 85% of an artist's income for a balloon payment at the front end. Yeah. You know, and what's that about? And now we're seeing, you know, I told you about Chainsmokers have released an album and they're giving 1% of the royalties to their fans who own this NFT that they've produced for them. Yeah. Kings of Leon released a tour and did it through NFTs. So there are solutions out there. If we always rely on grants and funding, absolutely, you should. If you're listening, whoever you are, chuck us the money. Chuck money at community interest companies. Chuck money at creators. Allow creative freedom. Support it. But actually, isn't it more empowering for us as a community if we embrace an entrepreneurial society, an entrepreneurial way of doing things, that means that we can build businesses in a meaningful way that enable creativity within our community? So actually, can we, you know, it's the same we're doing with our platform. We've got a business, a dev corp business that we've set up that is building the technology platform required for curious entrepreneurs to scale. That is a for-profit business that is there to develop this technology. And then we've got a CIC, which is what we do, which is working directly with young people. Because that asset over there, which is going to serve multitude of different things, which is hopefully going to connect the dots between other services and provisions like Inspire to Ignite. We want to see all that blend going on in that metaverse environment. Wonderful. Well, that's suddenly we've got an asset there that becomes a beacon of support for activities like this. So it can be achieved. It's going to take a new way of thinking. And hopefully over time we can, through our exploration over the next few years, fast forward some time into our podcast, where we're actually inviting some of those people that are embracing that and showing the world that actually we can come through it, take it as an opportunity rather than, this comes back to mindset, right? I've lost my funding, I can't do anything. What? Would we accept that from any of our cohort? No. We would not accept that. I wouldn't accept that individually. No. Ownership, take ownership. I believe in extreme ownership, and everything you have complete control over. You have complete control over everything that comes into your life, in terms of how you deal with that.
Yeah, how you respond.
Is take it as an opportunity.
Oh, for sure. Like, but if something happens to you and a response, there's a space for you to make a decision. I think with it's almost like what you're speaking about there. What we're doing from an organisation perspective, like that's the macro level. It's almost like the blend of human and entrepreneurial side, even from that side. And then what we're doing on a daily basis with the young people is that blend as well. So I think you're right. Like there's always everyone talks about balance, but I think actually achieving all-round balance.
Yeah.
It's not effective. You need to balance the right things of what you want to prioritise.
It's this. So we have this. So I started this by saying, can't talk about education without economy. Can't talk about economy without education. When we're creating infrastructure changes within our economy, which is another project, another hat I wear, when we're looking at that, I'm saying to our councils, right, well, we need youth clubs, jobs clubs, things that we know the young people need to enable them beyond our support. Because if they go out into the world right now, there is no support. Be clear, there is no support. There's no infrastructure support for them in our local area where we are. So if we were to wait through the existing systems, we'd be years. So what my suggestion is, and the way that we're working in synergy, so no balance but synergy, is that actually we'll tell you what we're going to do as an entrepreneur, and our kind of approach is we're going to get started, boom, straight out of traps, instant impact, big vibes, loads of energy, everyone's fucking loving it, you know, brilliant. I promise I'll keep...
That's the first one of the
no swear words. Beep. That didn't happen, but we can laugh about it. You know, we're going to go and do, and that way, the people that be, the powers that be that can scale that, i.e. support it with the funding, will see that and then want to support it. Yeah. Rather than waiting for them to do it for you or get you permission. You don't need permission, just do it. If you see something in your environment that you can change, just do it. And then what will happen is you make it open enough for people to collaborate. And I think that's where the change will come. And I think it's an entrepreneurial approach to start with that leads into a collaborative growth opportunity. And I think that's the exciting part. Right. We're going to get deep. If we carry on, we're going to get deeper and deeper into this. So, you know, in terms of what can you do to educate yourself on this? Because one thing I think is really important is that when we're having these conversations, let's cascade that into the Discord channel. So, you know, off the back of this, if you're watching this and you're not already in the Discord channel, join. But actually ask the question: what can you do to contribute to this challenge? Let's say again, 700,000. More than 700,000 young people, 16 to 24-year-olds, are NEET right now, not in employment, educational training right now. And most of them don't feel like they have an option. The traditional options aren't working for them. They can't wait for an apprenticeship. Tell me at 15 years old that I've got to go and have to do, you know, years on less than minimum wage when you've got a young person to support. Because you've got a baby or something. The circumstances come into all of that figure. What can we do about that? What can you do today that can contribute to bringing that number down? Maybe that's just being an example. Maybe that is your entrepreneurial efforts that can show other people that you can do what you can do.
That could even be asking a question to us. Again, ping any questions over or insights that you've had in your life where we can then take these to future discussions, because that... from that communication, that can then stimulate other conversations on the back of that to create change.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, Sam, this has been interesting and exciting. I'm glad we've started with this conversation, and we'll be back next time for more. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit the like button. If you're not in the Discord channel, join it. If you're not on the mailing list, join it. I don't think there's any other call to actions on it, but do it all.
That's a bit, enjoy. But thank you. And we'll see you soon.
Thanks.